listeners, welcome back to another episode of ForTheFans show. I'm your host, Dr. Benji, and I'm joined today by the usual three hosts.
What is this? You're not Ben. Where am I?
I'm not.
Where is he?
We've got no Ben today. So, first things first, I don't think Ben's ever missed a show, boys, so we should probably address this. Ben has had a family bereavement and he is not on today, so best wishes from ForTheFans to Ben. And as the only adult left in the room, I thought I would step up to the hosting duties.
What, by putting on a voice changer and like doing a deeper voice? Stepping up.
So I am joined, of course, thankfully Proudy's here, so I don't have to spend an hour with Jack. I'm joined by Mr. Christopher Proud. Good evening.
Good evening, Callum.
And the man himself, Jack Work the Space Peachman.
Hello, I'm good, thank you. I want to be a bit naughty. I feel like, you're the substitute teacher. You've come in. It's going to be rowdy today.
Yeah. I hope Ben doesn't listen to this one.
I do.
Because we've already started bad. So, but so much football has gone on this week that we thought we had to get a show out. And there is a huge weekend as well coming up, so we were like, we've got to cover what's gone on this week so we can stay up to date. We thought we'd start with a bit of current affairs this week, actually, because at time of recording, the England squad has just come out, hasn't it, boys?
It has. It's an interesting squad.
There are some interesting selections, and a few of them, I think Proudy sort of put me onto this. There are some very interesting ones here. Do you want to talk us through the ones that have caught your eye, Christopher?
Yeah, I mean, the ones surprising which have caught my eye is James Ward-Prowse and Nathan Redmond, both Southampton players. I mean, they
special
have
reason for that.
No, I mean, I'm not going to give them too much praise, but they have played well this year. And I know Ben had actually talked a lot about Ward-Prowse's set-piece delivery, and I think England definitely are a bit weak at set pieces.
We may as well make the most of those, considering
you know what's happened here. He's looked around and gone, Kane's injured. We don't have a corner taker, right? Who can take corners in the Premier League? That's the kind of thought here.
Yeah. So there was those two that stuck out to me. And also Jake Livermore was in the squad. Jack,
yeah,
what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a sign of the times. It's a dark day where we're like debating Danny Drinkwater or Jake Livermore. Like, I don't want to poo-poo on either player too much, but there was a time where we had Scholes, Gerrard, and Lamps kind of battling it out for two spots, and now we've got Jake Livermore.
We should, to be fair, I should kind of run the listeners through it, because obviously this is quite fairly current, a few of the names, and just do a quick run through. So goalkeepers, we have obviously the three that have been there for a while: Fraser Forster, Joe Hart and Tom Heaton. Defenders, Ryan Bertrand, Gary Cahill, Nathaniel Klein, Phil Jones. Michael Keane is one that is new. We'll talk about him in a minute. Luke Shaw gets in the squad.
He's not played a lot at all. I'm a bit surprised by that one.
Only 2 appearances since December in the Premier League, so that is interesting.
Is Rose injured at the moment? Has he picked up an injury?
Yes, Rose is.
Okay, I assume that was the case.
Rose is out. And with Shaw is his teammate Chris Smalling, John Stones, obviously, and Kyle Walker rounds out the defenders. Midfielders, Dele Alli, Michail Antonio gets... Was he in the last squad? I think it's his second call-up.
Yeah.
Still not made an appearance, but he's back in there. Ross Barkley is back, I think, who was not in the last one.
He's been a bit in the press, hasn't he, as well, for wanting out. Coleman's not happy. It's kind of interesting, that one. So,
do you side with Coleman on that one, Jack? That's
he's got 2 years left of his contract, and Coleman was like, well, he's got 2 years, so he's going to have to play them. Which I kind of like, that kind of, you've signed for this long, this is how long you're going to play, because very often a player just kind of forces a move regardless, whereas I feel like Coleman's a little bit old-fashioned in that regard.
I hope you heard that, listeners. Jack just said he likes something that Ronald Koeman did, so bear that in mind. Eric Dyer also joins Ross Barkley, Adam Lallana, Jesse Lingard, which is also interesting. Jake Livermore, as we mentioned, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Nathan Redmond, Raheem Sterling, and of course James Ward-Prowse, who we've just said. The strikers, let's talk about the strikers, boys, because the big news of the FA Cup weekend that's just gone, which we will talk about, was that Harry Kane, quite early into the game against Millwall for Tottenham, went off injured. They think it's a similar, not exactly the same, but similar injury to the one he had at the start of the year, and he has ankle ligament damage and should be out for about 6 weeks, I think. Not quite as long as before, which is good news. But he got injured, and that leaves quite the hole that needed filling, in the same way that Ben is not here, so I have had to step up. And Southgate has turned to an old hand, hasn't he, Proudy, for this one?
Yeah, Jermaine Defoe I think a lot of people have been calling for his inclusion.
34 years old.
Yeah. What was it? When was his last call up? 2013, I think it was. So 4 years ago now.
It was some time ago.
Yeah. So
what are your thoughts on it?
I don't know. Like I've been quite opposite to a lot of people. Like people said Defoe, and I said we should be looking to the future. I don't think we should be focusing on Jermaine Defoe. Like, fair enough, he scores goals, and he's been scoring goals in a very, very poor Sunderland side. But I mean, will he, be able to prove his game against like players like Mats Hummels, because they're playing Germany? I mean, and Germany, like, not like the friendly that we played them last year.
I didn't even know that was the first game. I didn't even know that was oh my goodness.
I mean, Jermaine Defoe against Mats Hummels and whoever else, Boateng. Oh God, I mean,
they might just.
We're going to win 2 penalties and win 2-1, and Defoe's going to score them both.
There's goal line technology now, though, right? So we should.
Lampard's going to want an effort from range. He's going to.
Yeah.
I know. He'll probably be doing the punditry for that game, so he'll come down from the stands. I'm sure he'll mention it.
I'll do a recreation. He'll be like, "Well, it should be 1-0 now, shouldn't it? We should carry it over."
Jack, you felt very strongly about the strikers, didn't you?
I did. Can I mention something here? You're going to be annoyed I'm going to mention this. I actually think if Charlie Austin isn't injured, he probably gets in this squad.
Right, sorry. That's it for the fans this week. 7 minutes. That's all we could do. Jack said the word. That's the panic word.
Charlie Austin is only a few weeks away from full fitness with his shoulder injury. And the reason I think this is a sign of the times, is the fact that Jermaine Defoe's come back into the side. Rashford comes in. Rashford not played very much. Played, obviously, despite being ill, allegedly, in the FA Cup game on Monday. Didn't look that great there. He's not had the greatest second season. I think Mourinho's done kind of a typical-ish Mourinho thing of kind of forcing players to the side, obviously, with Ibrahimovic coming in. United don't need Rashford anymore. It's a bit sad, really.
I think he's only got about 2 goals this year.
It's a bit of a weird one, because you look at some of the players who are being called into the under-21 side, and I just wonder if Rashford would have been better in the under-21 side, particularly when a player like Theo Walcott isn't in the squad, who has been playing, I guess, out wide for Arsenal, but has been scoring a fair few goals across all competitions.
You told me he had 18 goals.
18 goals.
Which is more than I sort of thought.
It's a bit inflated, obviously, but you consider the fact Giroud and Sanchez have very much been the 2 players playing down the middle, and he has been kind of forced out wide. I'm a little bit surprised that he's perhaps outside the squad, whereas players like Lingard, Livermore, even Nathan Redmond to an extent are in the side. I guess that's Southgate looking at a few players that he kind of trusts from, his earlier days.
That is an important point. That's an important point, actually, because those players that we've mentioned at the top of the show, Ward-Prowse, Redmond in particular, he knows very well, and Lingard, he knows very well from the under-21s. And I think there is something to be said for that. We don't often promote from within at England.
Usually they just skip the under-21s.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, maybe it's. We'll see how it works out. Germany's a tough game, but maybe this might be quite an interesting route to go down. And it's kind of logical, really, in the sense that you promote your manager from within. It makes sense that he should at least bring some of his players with him. So I kind of see the logic behind that. I think I agree with you on the Rashford point in the sense that he had such a good sort of first year, or a first kind of 12 months for Man United. Obviously, he broke in the season before last in sort of January time, right? And he was, as we tend to do, rushed very quickly into the England first team setup. And I don't think there would really be any harm with letting him go back to the under-21s. For even just this break or another few kind of international periods, considering that there's no tournament in the summer, just to give him a bit of form, give him a bit of confidence, and get I know he's played in the lower years coming up, but to get him just used to the setup more, I think wouldn't do any harm. I think Walcott's quite a harsh one, to be fair.
I don't know if you guys agree or not. I'm kind of surprised Andy Carroll isn't in the squad. He's got 6 goals this season in like 11 starts, I think, and then a few off the bench as well.
Although I think that it does say something, and this is kind of promising to me, it does say something a little bit maybe about how Southgate might want to approach his kind of brand of football, at least, that he hasn't gone for a Carroll in there against Germany.
Can you imagine Andy Carroll, Troy Deeney up top, dream team?
It could happen. I mean, if Kane's gone, any other injuries, and he'll be next in line. Should we move? I mean, anything else, Paddy, you want to talk about? We didn't mention Michael Keane, actually. We should do. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean,
it's another form pick, isn't it?
Yeah, he's very highly rated. I know he got called up in the last squad, and he didn't get on either. But It's probably another one Southgate trusts. He was playing under 21s as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's played quite a bit.
Yeah. So I mean, it's probably just a backup for now. I think he's got to get past the back two. Actually, I don't know who the back two's going to be because Smalling's back in there now.
You've got Smalling, Cahill, and Jones, and I don't want to poo-poo Phil Jones.
Yeah, but Stones is in there as well.
I feel like for me, I'm kind of surprised to see Phil Jones in there, if I'm honest. But then, to be fair, I'm surprised to see Luke Shaw in there as well because he's not been playing that much. I guess he's been the beneficiary of other injuries.
Shaw to me is the surprising one in the sense that Southgate seems to have picked this. At least there are exceptions. He seems to have picked this on their form in between the last break and now. Obviously, we had the big gap over the winter. Phil Jones was part of a pretty successful partnership with Rojo at the centre of the United defence, at least over the winter. So with that, I mean, he probably won't make the starting 11. I'd be quite surprised if he gets in, as you said, ahead of Smalling and Cahill and Stones. But yeah, that one does make sense. I think Shaw's the surprising one. It's interesting actually having this under-21 manager who's promoting from within a bit.
I will just have one last controversial thought. I think this might be the weakest. This might be the weakest England squad in my living memory. I feel like England has always had a few star players to look to over the last kind of decade, 2 decades, and I kind of look at this squad now. Is there a superstar in this team? And I know a superstar doesn't necessarily make the team, but I think it's a kind of sign of the times that you've got Jake Livermore. He's got his big move to West Brom, big club, now being called up for England. You've got players like Redmond who have come in, Ward-Prowse, Michael Keane. I know there's a few injuries, which certainly hasn't helped the matter, but it just... I don't want to say it's just not a very good squad, but compared to other England squads of past, it's...
Yeah. I think looking at the names at least, and looking at the absences as well. We've not even mentioned his name. Wayne Rooney isn't in the squad, and I think he's had an injury. I think Southgate said that the combination of a kind of niggling injury that he's had, and obviously the fact that he's not been playing much has sort of been the factors in his decision. Rooney's obviously not there. Other players, other more senior players like Sturridge that we've been used to over the last sort of 4 or 5 years in England squads are not there, and I think it does look quite bare. You're right, looking at that. Overall, should we move on though? Should we because we've got quite a lot to get through before we get to sort of the Champions League, which is what I really wanted to touch on. Jack, the Lincoln journey's over in the FA Cup.
The dream's dead. The live show from Wembley won't be happening.
I was quite disappointed about that actually, because I think a live for the fans meet up from Wembley would have been quite good, particularly as I have nothing to do with Lincoln.
I feel like if that goal for Walcott doesn't go in right before half-time, it's a completely different match. I actually thought Lincoln played really well. I was quite proud of that Lincoln performance. I think there's a lot of teams that in kind of a David versus Goliath game, they shut up shop and they just, they try and take the game the distance if they can and hope to scrape on penalties. Whereas Lincoln were fairly gutsy about it. In the second half, obviously, they conceded 4. It was just a collapse. It was, I don't know if lots of people will put it down to, Lincoln are tired. They've been playing a lot of fixtures, Lincoln, because they're still in the FA Trophy and they've got a lot of league games, obviously, to catch up on because of this FA Cup run they've been on. And I did think they looked a little bit leggy, which was kind of a surprise because, to be honest, in the other games they've had in the FA Cup, that I don't know if it's a case of they were tired, but it was kind of they were still in the game, so they had that energy.
They've had a very good run, and I agree with that. I heard a stat they've got to play like another 20 games or something between now and the end of the season. I think they might have played the most games out of any English side across all competitions this year. It's like some mad stat like that. They've played a lot. Arsenal just move the ball that I mean, even by Premier League standards, they do, for all their faults, they still move the ball that much quicker, and I think that really showed against a team from the lower leagues. And to be fair, you made a good point, Jack, that for the first half an hour of this game, I at least wouldn't expect that the team I was watching, if I knew nothing about Lincoln, was a non-league team. They looked like a pretty decently organised League 1 or 2 team. All
I'm saying is, after 30 seconds when they got a corner, I was thinking, they're going to win it now.
Well, you're right also about the goal just before half-time, which was quite disappointing for them. They had a chance, and I forget who it was. It was the full-back, the right-back.
He scored against Ipswich.
Tell me, Jack, you're from Lincoln.
I wish I knew. He scored against Ipswich. Thank you, yes.
Yes, and he had that really good chance when he cut in off the right.
It was a great little run.
It was, and he forced the save out of check, and I just thought if that one had gone in, absolute scenes. Proudy, you sound like you want to jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the thing I'd admire about Arsenal and Arsene Wenger is the fact that he put out one of the strongest teams he could put out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because, I mean, for a team like Lincoln, I mean, he could easily have just played 11 reserve players and then it just kind of kills the tie. But I think, like, he saw that this is Lincoln's probably, I mean, a lot of these players' only chance to play at a Premier League ground against Premier League players. And, I mean, he obviously showed it. And I think that would have been the difference. I mean, if they played 11 reserves, I mean, would the game have been 5-0? I mean, it probably would have been a bit more scrappy. And I think Lincoln would have had more confidence going on. But I think it would have sort of, I wouldn't say it would have put a negative spin on the result had Lincoln actually won against 11 Arsenal reserves. I don't think Wenger could afford to really in that game, could he? Considering that, and to be fair to Wenger, in these kinds of matches, he tends to be pretty. I know he has that reputation of playing the kids in the cup competitions, but when it comes to a game like that, if you look back at the Sutton game as well, he played a pretty good side in that game. And seems to sort of treat those events quite well, to be fair. Yeah, I think it was just surprising. I know Welbeck got injured just before the game. Was it Welbeck or was that Bayern Munich? Was it that happened?
He definitely was injured in between those two games. I'm not sure if it was in the
I think the thing which I can't still work out, and I can't put is like this Lucas Perez. Now a lot of Arsenal fans seem to highly rate him. They say he works hard for the team. He's pretty much got his heart on his sleeve, but he never gets played, or he only gets subbed on. And I think he got snubbed in midweek, and then he got snubbed again today against Lincoln, which he should have probably played. I mean, Giroud probably needs a break. I don't know, or it probably isn't the player that you want to start. I think early on the season he was doing really well coming off the bench. And now they've started him and now he doesn't score. So
we mentioned him last week, I think, when we were sort of doing our kind of post-Bayern Munich dissection of Arsenal. And I think his name came up, and he's actually had quite a hand when he's played, as you say. He's had a handful of assists and scored a few goals, and he's looked pretty lively. And I think it does just reflect on the transfer policy of Arsenal. God, we're talking about this, and we are already back into Arsenal, like the failings of the Arsenal board and transfer policy. Jack, any final words on this game that you want to?
I think the Cowley brothers will be managing in the Championship in the next 3 years.
You think that high?
Yeah, honestly, the work that they've done. Like, I have a few people who are within Lincoln Football Club, and I think it's like my step uncle is one of the directors. Like they were headhunted. The job that they've done at other teams like Braintree when they were there, and they've carried some of the same players over, and the teams that they've left have actually struggled since. And I think just the success they're actually having with Lincoln, obviously, not only have they gone on this cup run, they're in the FA Trophy still. They're top of the league at the moment. Lincoln, nowhere near the top of the table at the start of the year. Not many people would have predicted that. And obviously, it's an incredibly competitive league. And I think they've excelled at every job they've done so far. And actually,
I think as well. Sorry, that they've handled themselves pretty well.
I was going to say, they really. This never happens. I actually spent the time watching the entire post-match press conference after Arsenal with them because it was quite interesting listening to what they had to say. And they were relatively upbeat about it all. But no, they really have impressed me, and I think actually kind of how they've tactically approached each game against Burnley. Being more willing to let them have the ball because Burnley aren't so great. The ball at their feet. Being a side who kind of traditionally play on the counter-attack, being a smaller team in the Premier League. Yeah. And, I honestly, they're very, very good, and I think they'll be right up there in the Football League in the next few years. I think, actually, Lincoln's biggest challenge over the summer is going to be trying to keep them kind of both there.
I think because you mentioned that I was looking at a little bit at where Lincoln have been recently in terms of their league position, and they've not really troubled the top few places, have they, in that league for years? And the impact of the Cowley brothers on the club is clear. I think they've impressed everyone throughout this. One thing that you mentioned sort of in their interviews, they said, I think it was Danny Cowley that said, one of the best things about this whole sort of journey they've been on in the FA Cup is just how much they've been able to learn from going, even just chatting to Arsene Wenger and Sean, managers like Sean Dyche after the game and stuff and picking their brains. I think they're in a sort of environment where kind of forward thinking, at least British and English managers are quite hard to come by. these two go on a run and they're, already touted with having championship jobs. But I do think there is probably a bit of substance in that as well. Anything you want to say on this one, Praddy? Because I do want to whiz through the FA Cup games before we get.
No, I think that's everything on that one. In my opinion. So.
Yeah. I think we've. But congrats to Lincoln, because it's been the story of this year's.
I'm just good. There's no live show.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the FA Cup actually this year. I think I saw an article that I didn't click on. I think it was a Guardian one, but talking about how maybe the fact that the Premier League has been more competitive has also kind of made the FA Cup a little bit more open, and we've seen sort of Premier League teams drop out a little bit more, and also the mid-table teams feel better sides, and it's been pretty fun, hasn't it, this year? That we should talk about the other results, because despite this being quite fun, it's ended in a fairly sort of regulation set of. I quite
like the final four. It's like they were all seeded for the draws. They were guaranteed to all meet, because it is debatably the best four teams in England at the moment.
Yeah,
certainly you could put them up there.
You could say that. And I think actually, that you have a point with that, in the sense that we've had loads of upsets, we've had great stories this year, and then it does, it does revert to the mean, and we do have the best four teams. So the other results, I thought were fairly kind of regulation. Spurs put 6 past Millwall. Obviously, the Kane injury happened early on. Son got a hat-trick. He looked pretty good, didn't he, Proudy, in that game?
Oh, yeah. I think... I know there was a lot of talk about how Millwall were going to set up. Like, I think there was so many bookies taking bets on the amount of yellow cards Millwall were going to pick up.
Yeah.
But I think the thing, what surprised me is the fact that none of them could get near Son anyway. I mean, they couldn't bring him down. He was just absolutely superb. And I think it was quite admirable that he stepped up as well, because, I mean, Kane going down injured, I mean, Spurs' game plan could have gone right out the window.
Yeah.
And for him, because I know Son has played up front quite a bit in Germany before he moved to Spurs, and
a little bit for Spurs as well at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, it's just his movement's brilliant. Like he can just pop up really anywhere. And I think the thing I admire about Spurs the most is, their attacking trident, shall I say? Because it's Ali, Ericsson came on. And then Son, and it's just the fact that they can all float, and they're free roaming all the time. They're not in a fixed position.
Yeah.
I mean, Ericsson could be on the left, or he could find himself on the right, and the same with Ali. He could find himself. Yeah, I mean, he found himself in the 6-yard box for his goal, and that's what I admire the most about Spurs. It's just their fluidity, how they play the ball, the way they attack.
I think that's one of the reasons why they've looked so good against lower league teams. Actually, in the FA Cup, we've seen teams like Liverpool struggle. And look a bit wooden at times, trying to break a team down who's sitting back on them. But as you say, that fluidity looked really good. A thing about this game for me, I watched it on TV, obviously, and what was quite clear in the first 20 minutes was some of the, let's say, unsavoury chants that were coming from the Millwall fans at Son. I won't give them the dignity of sort of repeating what they were saying, but it was audible on TV, and the entire end was partaking in this racism, and it was quite good to see him just sock it to them and score. His first 2 goals were fantastic. The one with the left foot bent into the far corner, and then the volley for me against any team, that's objectively a very, very good finish. Jack, did you see this game?
I did.
I want to chat about?
Yeah, there is actually, and it's the fact that Klaassen got off the mark. It's his first goal in open play. Granted, it's come against Millwall.
Janssen.
Sorry, why did I say Klaassen? Janssen. Wrong Dutch striker. I apologise. But it's going to be a bit of an interesting test, I think, this, because Pochettino, he's been in charge for 3 years now. He's made some pretty big signings with the likes of Dele Alli. Who else has there been? Son obviously came in. Alderweireld came in. Obviously, this year they've had kind of Sissoko come in. Wanyama as well. There's been quite a lot of big transfers made, but actually when you look at the Tottenham side, there's a fair few players that were there before Pochettino's time, and obviously with Janssen, he's come in, and the idea is, I guess, that he's the number 2 to Kane, and he's really not hit the ground running. And I think for the next few weeks, obviously the international break helps a little bit in terms of reducing the number of fixtures. There's going to be a little bit of intrigue, I guess, around can Janssen actually get firing and kind of do the job he's been brought in to do, because whilst Pochettino's made some great signings, he's also spent some very big money, obviously 30 million on Sissoko. Janssen was 20 million. That's a lot
25, I think it was.
It's a lot of money for a player to come in. Obviously, a player like Son kind of proving his worth. But I still have a few question marks over Pochettino's and I guess Spurs as a whole's kind of transfer policies. Obviously, that's a problem that goes back a number of years now. Back when Bale left, and the kind of how he was replaced. And obviously, they brought in the likes of Eriksen and Lamela, who I think it'd be fair to say have kind of bedded themselves into the squad, kind of over the number of years now.
There were a few others in that time as well, like that didn't stick. Though you're right, players like I think Chadley's obviously moved
Soldado.
on. Yeah, there were a few that for every sort of hit that Spurs have had. There have been some quite high-profile sort of misses as well.
So yeah, I'm interested to see how does Janssen do really? Because are they going to go with Son up top and keep him on the bench?
Well,
it seems mad to spend 20 million on a striker, and then for the ideal opportunity for him to come in and do the job he's been brought in to do.
This is the thing for me because Son has looked best. I know, as I said to Pradia, he had that good stint up front for about a 7 or 8 game period at the beginning of the season when Kane was out, and then he went a little bit off the ball. He seems to score when he's up front in sort of streaks. Son does. He doesn't consistently bang them in. Other than that, he's also looked very good on the right, the left, or coming off the wing. I'd quite like to see Pochettino give Janssen a bit of faith for these games, because one of the things that did strike me when he scored at the weekend was how everyone in the stadium, players, staff, guys on the sideline, and fans were all genuinely. It kind of came off as a bit patronising, but they did sort of mean it quite genuinely. We're all pretty happy for him to score, and everyone went over, congratulated him and stuff, and it looked like that everyone was wanting him to succeed, and I'd quite like to see that sort of faith repaid by Pochettino in these Premier League games, to be honest. Paddy, you want to jump in or not?
Oh, well, I was just going to say about Vincent Janssen. I only found out.
I can tell when you go like,
Yeah, the other day I found out he's 2 months younger than me, and when I watched him on TV, I was like, I'm pretty sure you're 26 because you're definitely not 22. I'm thinking, because I know I look 22. He doesn't, but that's all I want to say on Vincent Janssen. Yeah, congratulations on the scoring, but he's definitely not 22. So. No, I thought that was quite a surprising find.
To be fair, I've begun to. I mean, I'm the youngest of this trio, but I have begun to get that. Like where you see a player, and it's like in their Twitter profile is like so and so 97, and they're in the Premier League, and it's like, oh God, I've reached that point now where there are Premier League, decent starting Premier League footballers who are a good.
I only had the revelation about a week ago. I was never going to be a professional footballer. So
what caused that revelation? what was the catalyst? Did you just decide?
Well, it was when I was walking home from work in the park and a ball.
Are you making this up?
No, this is true. I was walking home from work and a ball got kicked over like indoor AstroTurf, not indoor, but enclosed like AstroTurf flood ground. So I went to kick the ball. I went to send the ball back. It didn't land back in the AstroTurf thing. It just went the wrong way really.
And,
I didn't want to hang around, so I didn't go and fetch the ball for them. I just walked.
You did. Hang on. So you tried to get it over the fence?
Exit for them, like the one way, like the one gate out.
So you tried to give it them back, and then you left it, and
you
went.
It got closer to where they were. Awful. It got closer to them.
Oh my God, unbelievable!
But yeah, that was the realization for me. That was the moment. I was like, I'm not Harry Kane.
Ben's not here, and you've got all confessional. We're unearthing some gold from Paddy and Jack.
He's not going to be listening to this, so it's fine.
I still think I can make it.
Show, but
I mean, we're half an hour in. I think he probably would have tuned out by now.
Excellent.
But
you never have to know.
Other games. Let's move on quickly from that. City put 2 past Borough. This wasn't the big game for City, as we'll talk about in a minute. Anything from this game, really? Oh, I saw Karanka's gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's weird, that one, because it's been rumbling on for a while. Like, he's consistently been the bookie's favourite to get sacked. But there's never really... It's not been vocal. I don't feel like I've heard Middlesbrough fans screaming from the rooftops they want him out.
No, it does seem a little bit out the blue.
I think there might have been some kind of goings on, perhaps, behind the scenes. Obviously, Borough, they're not flying in the league this year, and I'm sure there'll be perhaps unfair comparisons made between them and Burnley this year in terms of league position. And, I'm not surprised he's gone, but at the same time, I'm not sure who they're now going to bring in.
It seems quite late to change manager. Like, you normally see. I mean, I guess Leicester did it quite recently. It was about 3 weeks ago, or whatever, that Ranieri went. But it does seem a little bit late in the year. I think there's sort of 10 games left, so maybe they could be just gambling on a new manager bounce to keep them up, because I think they are in the relegation zone, but by no means sort of out of reach. But it does seem a little bit late. You tend to see those changes done more in sort of January time.
I think they're just boring to watch. I think that's generally the reason why you got sacked. I mean, the fact I'm looking at their goals for in the league is 19, and their goals against is 30. Now, I mean that is a pretty dreadful record for a team in the relegation zone to have only conceded 30 goals. Which it sounds weird me saying it like that, but.
I've been there, Proudy, believe me.
Yeah, I know with Villa. With that time they had 11 goals, was it? Like in March?
We were on course to beat Derby's record, but we did just sneak out.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit disappointed about that still.
Yeah, I think he's been getting by with the fact that they've drawn so many games, hence why they're not actually like rock bottom of the league. But
I think Borough for the first 6 months of the season gave the impression that they were, as you say, because of how solid they were at the back, Karanka, it maybe gave the kind of false impression that he really knew what he was doing, and the sort of their woes in front of goal were kind of down to individual sort of errors and a bit of form and a bit of bad luck and that sort of thing, and that they were doing all the right things. But I think as the season's worn on, that problem has got even worse. Players like Negredo have stopped scoring, and it's become clear that the problems are a lot deeper than that. I'm just not so well. Maybe a new manager could sort of just tell them to stream forward and just try and score, but I'm sceptical on that one. There was one other result, obviously, which was the Chelsea-Man United game, 1-0 to Chelsea. Mourinho was mad yet again at Stamford Bridge. My favourite bit about this game actually was when Mourinho was getting some abuse from the Chelsea fans, and without even looking at them from behind his dugout, he just held up 3 fingers and then pointed to the pitch. Yeah, the 3 titles that he'd won. That was my favourite moment of that.
Yeah, I think Chelsea fans have been a bit harsh on, because I know
I thought that was harsh. Yeah,
no, they I think in history they've been quite harsh on. Like, I mean, I know with the Benitez one. That was obviously he wasn't a popular choice to take over. But when they won the Europa League, he was like, "Oh, thank you, Rafa." I was like, there was banners everywhere saying "Thank you, Rafa," for everything. I think, and then I think what was the other one? I remember seeing when Lampard had joined City, and it was the first game back at Stamford Bridge for Lampard. I remember I saw quite a few. It wasn't that many, but I saw quite a few Chelsea fans holding up banners saying he's a Judas. I was like, well, I mean, he got sold because he wasn't getting in the team anymore, and then City wanted him on loan, so why not go? Like, it's Premier League football. Are you trying
to tell me the football fans might be fickle?
Well, I mean, being a Portsmouth fan, I know full well about it. Yeah,
to be fair, yeah.
This really irks me, actually. I don't like Mourinho, but he literally put Chelsea on the map. He gave
add that one to the list.
He gave them a style of play. Like, you look at kind of how they play even now. They kind of the Makelele model, I guess, is something that he kind of developed and used, and then it's kind of just been kept on with. And you can still kind of see a little bit of the imprint that I think he left at Chelsea Football Club during his first stint there.
We should talk a little bit about the game.
I mean, it's. The thing with this game is it had the potential to be a classic. Monday night, Chelsea v United, and then Herrera decides he's a wazzock.
Well, of course, this was why Mourinho was so annoyed, because within the space, it was quite quick, wasn't it? Within the space of about 10 minutes or so, maybe even shorter than that, and Herrera was sent off by Michael Oliver in the first half for what in my opinion was a pretty harsh second yellow. I'm not sure you would see that given as a second yellow in many other games this year, honestly. What were your thoughts, Proudy, on that? Because that was obviously what sent Mourinho off.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it. Well, I caught a little bit of the game. Like I was working at the time, unfortunately. But I did see the red card and the goal. And looking at the red card, like, I think the reason why it was Michael Oliver refereeing, wasn't it? Was it Oliver?
Yes.
Yeah. The reason he gave the second yellow, in my opinion, was the fact that Herrera, I mean, he was nowhere near the ball, like anyway, in my opinion. And then he just took out Hazard. Like, you know, I mean, that is going to be a yellow card, in my opinion. And I mean, I think the thing is, I don't know how he was playing before. I don't know if he was diving into tackles or.
The first challenge was definitely a yellow. The first challenge was a nailed on yellow card. I am just, you sometimes see referees, and I think Oliver has a bit of a track record for this as well. It tends to be the better referees that in these kinds of games try and keep all 11 players on the pitch if possible, to prevent it from turning into. They're still applying the letter of the law, but a little bit more discretion to try and keep the game going, to stop it from descending into. At times, it kind of did happen in this game of being a little bit of a niggly, foul-ridden game. I think he probably should have exercised that in this particular instance, in my view. But
I think the reason he got sent off, maybe the foul on its own isn't a red card, like a second yellow, but Hazard, I think, was fouled like 6 times in the first half an hour. And I think it was after the one before Herrera's tackle, basically, the referee called over, I think it was Smalling, and said to him, look, whoever fouls him next is going in the book.
Could be, yeah.
And then instantly he gets fouled by Herrera, who's already on a booking. I think it was a stupid tackle to make on a yellow card, and whilst perhaps it isn't a yellow card challenge, why make that challenge when you're on a yellow card in that situation? It wasn't like it absolutely had to be done. And I think ultimately it kind of killed the game. Granted, I thought actually United, despite being perhaps a little underwhelming, they did, I guess, well defensively to limit them to 1 goal, which was I don't want to say a screamer by Kante, but it was a nice finish from range.
If N'Golo Kante begins to add goals to his game in the
everyone
manner
else
of
should
which
stop. Just stop playing football.
He's the man Pogba should be. That's what Kante should, yeah.
I mean, he taught him a lesson on this pitch. And to be fair, you know, Pogba lost his midfield partner, but in that battle, which was quite hyped before the game that was going on in the centre of the park, there was only one winner. And Kante was quite funny. You know, Kante was at the Leicester Champions League game in the week in the box, which I thought was quite a nice touch. But there were lots of tweets coming in like, N'Golo Kante is literally everywhere. He is everywhere. And he was everywhere in this game. And the finish, to beat a keeper in De Gea who had made some pretty outstanding saves earlier in the match. There was one he made, I think, from a header from a corner, which was really quickly down to his right. It was going in the bottom right corner, which was really incredibly impressive. He was on form. To beat him from that range was seriously impressive. And I think that if you were trying to level a criticism at Kante and his game, maybe you could say his range of passing isn't as broad as someone like a Matic, you know, right in the middle with him. But the other thing you would say is goals. And if he starts to do that, Jack, what are the weaknesses to Kante's game? And should we start considering him one of the best midfielders in the world, really, if he does this next season as well for Chelsea?
I'm actually going to be worried if he starts scoring.
For the well-being of everyone else.
Everyone in the league is going to be terrified. Like, just give him Player of the Year immediately. Like, he's got to be in the running for it again this year because he is one of the big differences between Chelsea of last year and this year. Obviously, Conte's come in, put in a new system and stuff, but Kante has offered something that I think Chelsea have lacked for a number of years.
He was outstanding in this game. There was a moment when he sent Jesse Lingard flying in the centre circle when they came in. Did you see this? Yes. They were going in for a little shoulder barge, and you might back Lingard in that situation because he has pace and he got there first, and Kante just sent him flying, and he just has everything to his game, or at least it's looking like he does right now.
I know Sky Sports are kind of the self-proclaimed innovators of football. And I assume they have someone who watches this show, because why wouldn't you? But if they do, please set up
They've
a
keep tabs on
please
talent,
put like a red button option on Sky where I can just watch a camera that follows around Kante in the context of the game. Because I'm convinced he must teleport. Like, you know, whenever he goes out of shot, he's like jumping through space and time. Because I don't get how he can be everywhere. Like, he's not a player I think of as being super rapid. Like, he'll have bursts of pace forward, but I don't think of him being like, you know, some crazy pacey winger.
It's funny you should mention the player cam thing. I was talking to my mate last night about this. Do you remember when Sky, when they first got red button on the Champions League, used to have the individual player cams, and you could go on the red button and look at every player.
There was also Fan Zone, wasn't there, where they locked two rival fans to commentate a football match against them. That was good. That should come back. That would be.
I'm Proudy. I think you'd be really good on that.
No, he's not. He's not brutal
We've got to
enough.
get back in the Premier League first. So, one step at a time. League One next year, and then we'll think about that.
So about 3 years.
I just think it'd be great. I just think you'd be fantastic if the other team scored and you just go, oh,
I will say, during the Euros, there was a BBC online. You could watch something called the Tactical Cam, which is like from one end of the stadium, like really high up, and it just had the entire view of the pitch. That was an interesting angle to watch matches from, because you kind of got a better idea of kind of shape and kind of who was organising each line of the team that you were kind of behind.
Maybe we could do a kind of For the Fans coverage of the game, where we send you up with like your phone, Facebook Live.
Yeah, I'll climb up on Wembley roof, periscope it.
It's like one of those Urban Explorer channels, Jack.
Have you not come across my second channel where I do that?
That's you. It's you. So from this game, we need an Ungolo Kamte.
I mean, it's ambitious.
It's so forced.
I was reaching for it. But
you
Chelsea
do stuff like that.
And they will face Spurs in the semi-final. So Arsenal obviously have City, and we have the potential for a North London final potentially, which would be quite fun.
Which won't happen. So,
I mean, I kind of want it to happen, and I want Tottenham to beat Arsenal in the final just for Arsenal fan TV. You know, Wenger resigns on Arsenal fan TV. He's walking out the ground, sees the camera rolling, walks in and resigns there and then.
Yeah, Premier League. It was obviously because of the FA Cup. It was a sort of reduced schedule, and the Premier League will kind of move pretty quickly through these. But I thought there was 4 games, and actually the results from these 4 games, or at least 3 of them, were quite important or quite notable. So Bournemouth got their first win of 2017, which was 3-2 against West Ham. Your boy Jack, I know you talked to him up a little bit. Josh King got a hat-trick. He looked pretty good.
I do like him. Obviously, former United trainee. Shame he's Norwegian.
That's true, and I didn't know that until I think you probably mentioned it last summer. I think for the World Cup or something. I don't know why we were talking about him for the World Cup, but you mentioned it, and I was like, oh yes, so he is. That's quite cool. He got a hat trick. Goal scorers for West Ham with Ayew and Antonio. That's a big win for Bournemouth, Proudy, isn't it? I know you're South Coast friends. But actually, what's the Portsmouth relationship with Bournemouth? Is it as hostile as Southampton, or are you kind of like...
No, we played them in the FA Cup last year, and it was... I remember all the big media outlets were calling it El Costico, which it's not really. I thought, it's the same with Plymouth. Like, that's called the Dockyard Derby, which has no logical sense.
It's like Ipswich and Norwich, isn't it? Where they call it the Old Farm Derby.
Yeah, but at least that's. I mean, at least they're close. I mean, Portsmouth and Bournemouth are fairly close, like compared to Portsmouth and Plymouth. But I mean, everyone. Southampton fans have also said that Bournemouth is a non-existent rivalry. I mean, they tried to make it one, but...
Bournemouth are just too friendly, aren't they?
Yeah, I think, they are. I mean, I lived there for 3 years, and it kind of annoyed me, like, coming from London.
They're like the neighbour you want to hate. Bournemouth are the Ned Flanders of the Premier League.
Yeah.
But you can't because they're too nice. Yeah. Well, that's definitely the case with Eddie Howe, first win of the year. Everton 3, West Brom 0. Your man Ronald Koeman got yet another win. Jack, how many wins will he have to get before you like him?
I don't know, a few. I think the big talking point of this is great they won. Lukaku scored and got an assist, but Lukaku going on record this week saying not signing a new contract.
This seemed a little bit strange to me because he has 2.5 years left on his deal.
It's like he's trying to force a move early, isn't it? Like
either that or he's trying to get another contract at ludicrous money.
I mean, he was offered £140,000. That's a lot of money. I mean, I hate it. He's probably going to end up going back to Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think he'll go abroad, actually. I think I think a team abroad will take him. I'm not sure, like someone like Atletico Madrid.
Yes,
So,
I'm sure. I think I said this before. Actually, if Griezmann moves on, like that could be an interesting sort of. He could be a target for a number of sort of big European teams actually who want to take a bit. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a chance.
PSG might.
I'm going to throw controversial. I think he might go to Madrid as a Benzema replacement. He's only 23.
Oh, don't do this, Jack, because Ben's made his Son thing, and
Son and Lukaku up top together for Madrid.
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
Son got a hat trick. Lukaku got one. Ross Barkley, we mentioned him with 2 assists. He looked incredibly good again in this game.
He's so hit and miss though, like Barkley.
Well, no, I see. I would say that until this sort of basically the run of form that he's had in 2017, because he has been electric since the turn of the year. And he's been popping up with assists and goals throughout and just generally looking really good. I think he's helped by the fact, I'm not sure if he played in this game, Schneiderlin had a really good game, but I think Tom Davies has actually kind of helped him in a way, and he's running the team, because it's sort of, he's no longer sort of the boy wonder in that team, and he's not got as much probably as expected from him, and also just the way that Davies fits in tactically has helped him quite a bit as well. And as I say, 2 assists, looking really good. Back in the England team. Morgan Schneiderlin got a goal, which is pretty good for him considering that he's only just arrived at Everton and had a pretty torrid time at United, didn't he, for 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, I guess his long-term ambition is to get in the France squad, but you look at the current France squad, and I don't know if you've seen the players not in the France squad, but Lacazette, Benzema, Martial, Coman, Varane, I'm sorry, Schneiderlin. I know he plays different positions to all those players, but
he's got Kante to get.
I know, yeah. You might be waiting a while. It's mad how good. When you compare the France squad to England's squad, it's just quite funny, really, isn't it?
It's quite funny.
I mean, you have to laugh. I'd cry.
Yeah.
I think what annoys me the most actually about that game is the fact I've just seen West Brom at 8th. And I'm thinking to myself, how are West Brom 8th in the league?
This was quite a high altitude game, actually. This was sort of battle for top 6.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, they were dreadful against Everton. I think I read just they only had 2 shots, and I think this is typical Tony Pulis. Oh yeah, we're finished. We're 8th. Let's just go on our holidays. It's one of those games. They just lack ambition, I think.
I will say, Ben Foster at West Brom. I'm surprised he's not in the England squad. Or not even mention.
I'm not sure, because I think one of the areas in which we do actually have a bit of depth. I mean, Jack Butland wasn't even in the squad. Obviously, he's been injured. We have quite a lot of depth in that keeper position.
Maybe we should just play 2 goalkeepers.
Yeah, yeah. Play Joe Hart centre half or something. Tell him to just
sweeper
on the line. Yeah.
I mean, Proudy sat going, no, Jack, no. Keeno's kind of rolling with it. Ben would normally in this situation be the voice of reason, but Keeno's just accepted it.
Well, you see, if it was the 4 of us and it was even, I would have no problem in siding with Proudy saying that was not a good joke. But I feel
I was serious.
You've got to be impartial, haven't you? You're the host.
Yeah, because I was the host. Listeners, let me know if you prefer me to Ben. He won't be listening at this.
It's a risky
he won't be
game.
listening. He won't be listening 48 minutes in. So just let me know. Hull moving swiftly on, beat Swansea 2-1. Big result at the bottom of the table. It leaves Hull only, I think, a point away from safety. And there's a lot to be fair been said about Marco Silva and his impact. I mean, we'd said it on here, but they're still not out of the relegation zone, and their form is pretty poor. And so this was a big result. We just mentioned Everton, Nias, who was high-profile flop at Everton. I forget how much they signed him for, but it was a ludicrous amount. He got 2 goals. Alfie Mawson got another goal again. He likes scoring. It was a bit of a consolation. And that sort of leaves it all very tight.
Swansea must be so annoyed about this. They had a chance to go 9 points clear of the drop, or 8 points clear of the drop.
That far? I didn't realise that.
Yeah, and obviously with this result, they're now just 3 points ahead of Hull.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it's I do think if Hull hadn't have got this result, maybe Borough might have given Karanka another week, because it's really tightened everything up, this result. It's kept Swansea in the mix, and it's moved Hull a little bit further away from sort of the bottom 2. So. Yeah, big result. And I think the relegation battle this year is really interesting. There are a lot of teams that, I mean, Bournemouth won at the weekend, but there are a few teams that were on the slide that may have become implicated by the end of the season. And so it's good. Other games, Liverpool, Burnley, Jack, thoughts on this one? It's quite dull, wasn't it? I thought Liverpool had the problem.
Emre Can, bit lucky with his goal. He did nothing all game, then scores that goal, and now he's in the FIFA Team of the Week. So it's
funny that Ben was highlighting the notes that Henderson wrote, obviously out injured, wrote in the programme prior to the game, where he was bigging up Can because he was very good against Arsenal. And I think the whole Liverpool team, again, suffered from this problem where a team sits in on them and they couldn't break them down. They had enough this game, but it was kind of just a reproduction of the problems that we've seen from Liverpool at home in particular.
It was like watching a repeat of the previous game against Burnley earlier on in the year, especially when Burnley took the lead kind of after 7 minutes. I was just worried, like, oh no, not this again.
Proudy, any thoughts on the Premier League, or you got anything you want to chip in?
No, I think
Liverpool.
I was just gonna pretty much say what you said about the relegation, but I think it's starting to hot up again. I think if Hull lost, I think that would have pretty much sealed the 3 teams going down, in my opinion. I know it's still like 10, 11 games left, but I can't see, those teams getting out of the relegation zone. But I think with Hull winning, it does make it interesting. I mean, Southampton could still go down, so and they're in 10th. They're only 11 points above the drop zone.
There's hope, yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Right, we will take a quick break for some classic football shirts action. This is about the only time you'll hear Ben's voice in this episode, so make the most of it, everyone, because you won't get it again. And we'll be back for some Champions League to wrap up the show.
This particular podcast, For the Fans Show, have linked up with ClassicFootballShirts.com, the home of the classic rare retro vintage football shirts. All of the shirts are original and officially dating from the seasons in which they were worn. You can find a referral link on Twitter in our YouTube description. If you're interested in that sort of thing, get yourself one. Honestly, the range is ridiculous. There's a Norwich away kit, a Parma home kit, anything you want. It's madness.
Champions League. 2 huge results, one historic result, and one was negative for the English teams and the other was positive. We'll start at the King Power with another amazing night for Leicester fans. I think it'd just be amazing to be a Leicester fan, wouldn't it?
Unless you're Ranieri.
Yeah, well, I did think like what he must be thinking watching this. And he has almost a direct involvement in this result because he's kind of set them up for this win. We should say they beat Sevilla 2-0, so they went through, what would that be?
3-2.
3-2 on aggregate. It wasn't away goals. It was so that away goal didn't really count for anything, but it's fine. Historic game. Shakespeare puns? Anyone? You got on? No, we don't.
I didn't do Shakespeare at school, so I mean, yeah.
He's only the third. I saw a stat before the game. Only the third English manager in Champions League history, obviously since it's been in this format, to manage in the last 16. Do you want to name the other 2? Little mini feature. Anyone,
English managers.
English, yes.
Oh gosh, that's tricky.
No.
Does Di Matteo's not English? He's Swiss and Italian. Does he have any English blood in him? Would that count?
Oh, dear.
What? What's just gone on? Okay, I'll give you one. Harry Redknapp. Name the other.
Di Matteo does have English nationality, just to be clear.
That doesn't count. I'm not even going to give you.
You're saying that people who are nationalised don't count as being British citizens?
No, we get enough of this on the daily, Jack. So I'm not Bobby Robson was the other. No longer with us, and that was with Barcelona, which is crazy.
Oh, Barcelona! I thought it was Newcastle.
Well, he might have done as well. I'm not sure if they got to the last 16.
He didn't get that.
But yeah, so now he's got into the last 8. He's probably only one of 2, I would think. Thoughts on this performance, Jack? It was kind of a classic Leicester, wasn't it?
It was.
We saw them back.
I feel like lots of people after Leicester sacked Ranieri are going, I hope they get relegated now, I hope they just get knocked out. I think if anything, it's justified the decision, like the last 3 results they've had.
You didn't, because you were the biggest proponent of that, weren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like Leicester, I don't want to say they look like the team they were last year, because they're obviously playing slightly differently, but there's just a weird confidence about them, and it almost felt like when Captain Morgan nods it in, like that it was just going to be that night.
I heard something about Wes Morgan. I mean, Proudy can probably confirm this because he's far more in touch with the memes than I am. But does Wes Morgan have a deal with Captain Morgan?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think there's a load of like criteria he has to follow. Something about if he buys a Captain Morgan, he has to shout a certain phrase, doesn't he? Like,
it's like there's only one Captain.
Yeah,
Morgan
I was thinking, and he has to dress up as Captain Morgan at like every fancy dress party. I forgot what the criteria is. Like, I should have it in front of me, but
I didn't get Proudy to do his homework.
It's not in my notes, that one either.
It's one of the weirdest endorsements probably in football, I think.
He obviously got the first goal off his shin.
Yeah.
Cue the celebration. And then it was a fantastic goal, I thought, from Mark Albrighton, Villa reject, who has gone to not do much in the game after leaving us. Very good finish, and he looked pretty good. I would sort of shout out for me in this game for Ndidi, who I thought did his best. Not quite the real man, but with him watching in the stands, he did his best Kante impression and looked sort of the partner that Drinkwater has been missing for much of this year. You said they played a little bit differently, Jack. I kind of thought actually the fact that he went with Ndidi and Drinkwater in the centre was kind of he was reverting to the classics of Leicester. He had Albrighton, Okazaki in behind Vardy. Vardy as well, his running in this game. Sevilla, the back four in particular, were quite ponderous at times, and his running kind of took them by surprise. I think English teams might have been a little bit more ready for it, but at home, in the form that they're in now, at least under Shakespeare, he really sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons. And it was, in terms of the game, like, there wasn't anything that we didn't already expect, I think, from Leicester in this.
No, it wasn't like a surprising performance. I think if anything was surprising, it was just how poor Sevilla were.
Yeah, and I was about to get to that because, I mean, it was a surprise, maybe not surprising considering the man, but a level of stupidity from Nasri in that second half which really put their chances to bed, Proudy. We've already spoken about one.
Yeah, I actually, there was an article which I should have read before we did this, but it said something about what Nasri revealed what Vardy had said to him. I genuinely, I don't know.
He did get annoyed at him, didn't he, for that?
Yeah, I was going to say there must have been something. And
but you don't know, 'cause you didn't read the article.
Vardy, being the person he is, I'm not surprised he said something towards Sami Nasri. Like, it's probably too rude to say on this podcast as well. Like, I hope it wasn't, but
do we have limits? It would be.
Well, I mean, it depends if it was like. If he said,
you know what he said.
France,
he said something about that whole masseuse thing, hasn't he?
Oh, was it? Yeah, it could have been.
Definitely. Nasri's probably going to come out and be like, "Yeah, I was hacked during the game. I didn't actually do it." That would be the excuse.
Sent from my back pocket. Yeah.
I actually thought it was kind of. I mean, Nasri came out and said that Vardy should play like a man. After this game, I thought it was kind of clever. It's the kind of thing in the Champions League that you see kind of often, but it just gives you the edge at times. And Vardy is a bit of a master of that in the dark arts. And to be fair, he didn't sort of he massively overemphasised the impact of the little rut that they did head to head, but he didn't sort of go down rolling. And I thought really the buck stops with Nasri because he'd been booked quite recently and. The game was still going on. Their fullback had the ball, and he just didn't turn around to Vardy mid-game.
He lost it as well. Like there was definitely something said because he didn't like even drop it after the red card, did he? He still wanted a piece of him. Did you see the photo of Nasri sat in the tunnel, kind of watching the game on like a little screen? It was quite sad, really.
No, I didn't.
He's like sat on a little stool, like watching a TV feed into the tunnel. It's like sort of ninjally taking a photo, like, we better not notice. Like, I'm just taking this over his shoulder.
I always wonder what happens when the play because they never, like when managers get sent off, they go into the stands so that they can watch the game. The players never come back out.
What would you do if you were a player and you got sent off in that situation? Do you find somewhere to watch the game? Do you go and have a shower?
It's a good point, actually. I think it depends how you're getting on. I think if you're getting beat 3-0 and it's all just going to tits up, I don't think you'd really care what happens. If maybe you'd scored a couple goals and you'd already contributed and then done like a Dele Alli and just got sent off, I think I'd still care about what happened, probably. Proudy, what would you do if you got sent off?
Proudy wouldn't get sent off.
I was only sent off once. But,
have you ever been sent off as a keeper?
No, I think Sunday League refs are a bit lenient.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you ever been booked in Sunday League?
I have been booked, yeah.
I've been booked.
For foul language. So it's not a tackle or anything, it was just saying something to the ref.
See,
like,
I
direction.
got a yellow card for literally the worst reason in the world. So playing on a big open field, it's windy, ball gets kicked out for a throw-in and goes miles. It's our team throwing, I'm just stood waiting for the ball to come. And there's like a guy marking me, like shirt-tight barging into me when the ball's still being fetched about 50 metres away. So I just turned around to him and pushed him over. And I got booked.
And you got a red card for that?
No, I got booked. I got a yellow. The ref was quite clear. He didn't go down clutching his face, so I got away with it, but...
I would have booked you for that awful attempt at giving them the guys on the AstroTurf the ball.
I mean, I think I've got a suspension from them playing ever football with them.
Yeah,
Lifetime ban.
Walking past there
Stadium ban. I can't go that way ever again.
So Leicester go through incredibly. Half a quite a poor Sevilla performance and half a sort of classic Leicester. Do we think they can go any further? I mean, the draw, obviously, we should say we're recording this on Thursday night and the draw isn't until tomorrow night or tomorrow day. Can they go any further, Proudy? Do you think?
Well, I've already tweeted out that I hope they get Barcelona lose 13-0. So, you know, I think the only thing that annoys me about Leicester, and actually it's not even directly about Leicester, it's the fact that there are so many fans out there who say the Premier League is the best league in the world, and I say the only team left in England in the last 8 of the Champions League are fighting relegation. So, I mean... If that says the Premier League is one of the best leagues in the world, then I don't know.
Well, they've not got the FA Cup to worry about.
Yeah, I know, but it's the fact that teams can't see the workout. Well, actually, fair enough. They actually had a fairly easy group. I don't think they had.
Yeah, because they were quite lucky because they obviously won the league. They got the number 1 seed in that group,
so they avoided pretty much all the big teams. And I think Sevilla, like, who are thirds, aren't they? Third, fourth, like in the La Liga, and they're still within the title race. I mean, the fact they couldn't beat Leicester either. I mean, it's just. Oh yeah, I just hopefully they get someone big, maybe get some more money for them, and then they get knocked out like pretty convincingly, 9-0, 10-0. You know, I just can't stand it anymore. Like, I've had enough.
You want it to end.
I just want to be a killjoy. I know when Portsmouth eventually made the Champions League in like 22-58 or whatever it is, there's going to be some fan who says, "Oh, I hope Portsmouth get knocked out 18-0 by Rostov."
They'll have your tweet ready to go, Proudy.
Can I just say, there is one Rostov fan who's delighted that you've predicted in the next 200 years they'll be in the Champions League knockout stages.
I mean, hopefully Lincoln will be in the Champions League around then. So,
well, if they keep hold of Danny Cowley, anything's possible. We should say, you mentioned, the teams in the last 8. Obviously, Leicester are there. 3 Spanish teams, big 3, Atletico, Real Madrid and Barcelona. The 2 usual suspects from Germany in Bayern and Borussia Dortmund. And what was the... there's obviously Monaco, who we'll talk about in a second, Leicester
Juve.
And Juve, who went through in pretty regulation fashion against Porto. They are my tip. Should we do this now? We were going to do this right at the end, but we'll do predictions. I want a team, nothing else, one word, Proudy, go, to win.
Wait, which team's going to win, sorry?
Yeah.
Monaco, I think.
Oh my. Okay. Yeah, Jack, yours?
I'm
letting that one sink in.
Leicester.
So Jack, after Jack spent the best part of the
Shakespeare's
last
a god. Shakespeare's a god.
Oh dear.
You spent the best part of the last year just wanting doing what Proudy just did, essentially wanting the Leicester dream to end.
Shakespeare.
And now you think they'll win the Champions League.
Shakespeare was going to do a Roberto Di Matteo-esque Champions League win.
So, listeners, I know Ben's shaking his head at this point. I will bring us back to earth and say Juventus will win the Champions League.
Why can't Monaco win the Champions League?
Why can't Leicester win the Champions League?
I hope Monaco get Leicester and then thrash them. That's what I hope that happens, actually. So they gave. We'll move on to the final game that we'll cover on tonight's for the fans. They did give City a bit. It's 3-1, a bit of a thrashing. It's 6-6 on aggregate. I forgot the aggregate score. They beat Manchester City, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, 3-1 at the Stade Louis II. I thought Pep was quite naive in this, Jack, in the sense that he played Kevin De Bruyne in sort of central.
He's got a lot of criticism, I think, to answer for this game. I think he's made a few head-scratching decisions, actually, during his time at City already.
They went in with a 5-3 lead, and I know that neither team can really defend, but I felt that Guardiola almost bought into that sort of narrative a bit. in the sense that he still could have. You've got players like Fernandinho, obviously Yaya Toure played. Why not just try and be a little bit more shut up shop for a little bit at least against a team who does score ludicrous amounts of goals, but their defence is very poor. And like, while you could say that maybe that makes the case for City to go all out attack on them, that also means they're susceptible to being hit on the break and to nick goals. Raggy, I thought, was incredibly slow, and he's looked suspect in both games, went off injured. Like, why not try and use a bit of the pace that you have and hit them on the break, Crowley? Did you think they were a bit naive in this game?
And I think what you were saying, like, why didn't Pep shut? I just don't think that's in his philosophy, whatever that is. Yeah, I just don't think he knows how to. And I think it still annoys me to this day, actually, why Kolarov is still playing as a centre-back. Like, I mean, he has Otamendi on the bench, who is a centre-back, and he doesn't play him and plays Kolarov instead, next to John Stones, who we know is pretty awful at the moment this season.
As many faults as Otamendi has had, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
There was the second goal, I think, which Fabinho scored off the free kick.
Shocking defending. Absolutely shocking.
I feel like even just for all Otamendi's faults, a conventional centre-back may have had a bit more of a chance of maybe getting his head to that.
Do you want to know the thing that annoyed me the most about this game from Pep? One sub he made, one. And it was to bring on Kelechi Iheanacho in the 84th minute.
Did he bring Sané on or not?
No, Sané started.
Sané started.
Okay.
So that is mental. Like, I'm not... He needed to change the game sooner.
I saw Fabian Delph warming up, and I thought, oh God, he's admitted defeat now.
You know, they were probably just looking to park the bus at 2-1 before the Bakayoko goal.
Well, that's what I thought they would do. I mean, you say, it's true that a bit unrealistic to expect Guardiola to put in maybe his starting 11, a kind of more defensive team. And he did say before the game they needed to score. But after Sané pulled that goal back, he was very... I mean, obviously he didn't change it at all, but I was like, why is he not acting a bit faster and making a sub?
It's the kind of game, because they were playing kind of Fernandinho and then kind of De Bruyne and Silva kind of central ahead.
Which he's done a lot.
Why would... Like, it was essentially like a 4-1... I don't want to say like a 4-1-5, but with the players they've got, that is a very kind of attacking-minded kind of midfield, especially down centre with De Bruyne and Silva. When you've got Delph, I'm not Delph's biggest fan, but I think defensively you can offer you something, and you've got Yaya Toure of all players, who I think...
Jack, don't worry, I'm not Delph's. You know, if we're doing Fabian Delph fan stakes here, Jack, I win on this.
I think it's world class.
Someone has to, like. I just don't understand that thinking to not bring either of those players into the game. I think Yaya Toure, he's perhaps not got the legs on him, but he's quite good defensively. He's quite a smart player, and he's quite tall and can deal with set pieces. Yeah, sorry, I said that Toure had started. Fernandinho obviously started in the middle. That makes that decision, considering that he's played Toure quite a bit, actually, in the at least. I think he's kind of begrudgingly played him. I don't actually think he's a big Toure fan. But surely, as you say, you'd stick him in for this game to try and show. He had him at Barcelona, and I know he deployed him as a centre-back, and Yaya Toure couldn't play there. Like, I think we've known his best position is playing behind the striker. Could not or would not play there. Well, no, he played in the Champions League final, and they kept a clean sheet. He did. But I just don't think... He sold him like the year after, didn't he? So I suppose he just didn't think it would fit. I think... Even that, though. Even that. He chose to play Kolarov at centre-half. We were just talking about that free kick. If Yaya Toure's on the pitch defending a set-piece, he's a physical presence. And in those kinds of games where it does seem to be those little moments, particularly in the Champions League, like an away goal or a set-piece that just puts them ahead... in those little moments, someone like that, very experienced, obviously a physical presence, may have just been a little bit more helpful. I think I have defended Guardiola quite a lot of times on the cast this season. I think the criticism, whatever he may get from this game, is probably justified. Did Otamendi have like a little injury? Because he was on the bench and he's played like the last number of league games. Like, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered, and I know people are I feel like in some ways it's going to be masked over by the fact that everyone's going to go on about the fact that Guardiola, it's the first time he's not reached the semi-final, I believe, in this competition. Yeah. Like, I don't want to say that doesn't mean a lot, but when you look at the teams he's been at, it's kind of teams that have picked themselves. And I hate to say it, but I think there's big questions over the team that he's picked here at Man City. And I don't think they, when you look at the way that they played, I thought it was naive. I don't think they deserved to go through.
No. So in his defence, yeah, I think that's right. And honestly, I think if they got this tie, you would expect in 12 months' time, I'd probably think they would do it. You'd expect him to make more signings in the summer. It was a kind of Monaco are a bit of the now I'm thinking about it. Your shout proudly for them to win is not as bad as I initially.
Not as bad as Leicester is what you're trying to say.
No. They are a bit of a wild card. They're probably the most unconventional team in the way that they play that's left in the Champions League because they just can't defend. But going forward, they are scintillating, and it was a tough game, and it was a tough tie because they are just so difficult to play against at times. And but even with that in mind, the 2-goal lead that they had coming into this game, and they managed to blow it. I think you're right, Jack. I think question marks, just not overall at City, but obviously the fact that this, as you say, it's the first time that Pep hasn't made it to the semi. He deserves to be questioned for that. And I think if City had got to a semi this year, it may have
even a kind of quarter final.
Quarter. Yeah, if they'd have been in that mix again, because obviously did they get to the semi-final last year? It was last year, wasn't it? They got
and they lost to Madrid.
Yeah. So even if they'd have got to the quarter this year, I think that would have maybe been enough.
See, I kind of agree with that. At the same time, they spent £150 million in the summer.
Yeah, we've said this.
Oh, I know, but I mean, what I'm saying is that you expect progression.
Yeah,
and I know you can go, it's a new manager, it's a new style, and all that kind of jazz. I don't really buy that in this case. They spent so much money.
Yeah, it was a disappointing week, and I think the fact that, as you say, Praddy, the only side left in the last 8 that is English is Leicester, is quite a poor indict. I mean, we'll have Chelsea in the next year, and that for me will be quite exciting to see how they get on.
Yeah.
But it does just reflect on how poor.
I just want to see Kante in the Champions League.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I was going to just quickly touch it because I know we talked a lot about City, but Mbappe, he looks like an absolute star
a prospect,
in the making,
isn't he? 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've looking at his recent form. Like since February, I think there's only been 3 games, and out of the last 10 where he hasn't actually scored.
Yeah,
scored a hat-trick against Metz. I mean, he scored twice against Nantes just before the City game. I mean, he definitely looks like he's the French Rashford. So
there are shades of. I know he isn't. Well, I don't think. I think is he French? Is he?
He's French. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got 2 African parents, so, but I think he's French. Yeah, shades of Thierry Henry coming out of Monaco. About that. I put it this way: I don't think he'll be at Monaco for much longer. Maybe not even this summer. A lot of teams looking at him.
I think he'll end up at PSG. But
well, yeah, maybe they'll suck him up. Any last words on this one, boys, before we draw to a close?
Sack Guardiola.
Better look next year.
Sack Guardiola from Proudy.
Look, no, I'm a big Guardiola fan. No, of course.
Wenger and Guardiola should do like a new series of wife swap, but where it's football matches, you swap clubs for a year.
God. I thought that would involve sort of, cross-dressing and all sorts. God, I'm not. No, I'm fine.
I mean, if you want it to.
No, I misinterpreted that. We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we've got no Ben.
The rails have run out. We've gone off them.
I have done the rails.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last show. So
yeah, if you never see ForTheFans again.
Yeah,
Paddy's made a brief little run on ForTheFans.
4 episodes or something. I've had a blast. So
with that, I will do my hosting duties and bring the show to a close. Again, best wishes to Ben. Hopefully he'll be back next week. Thanks boys. It's been quite fun actually. I've enjoyed this. I said in the break I might be taking Ben's job. You probably heard that at the beginning.
I hope not. But you've stepped in. I feel like you've done an adequate job. And I applaud you for it.
Interim host.
To be fair, it's very different. It is normally quite different.
It's like Tim Sherwood.
Yeah.
I feel like when one of us comes in and has to temporarily take charge, it should be known as a Shakespeare now.
Yeah, okay. yeah. I was the Shakespeare of this cast. It is different because normally I can let Ben sort of let me go on a little rant for a bit, and then I can just sort of hands off. But I've had to pay attention for the whole thing, which has been annoying. Jack, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Proudy, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, and you can also, of course, find us on the socials. We didn't take any Twitter questions or stuff this week. At ForTheFans Show on Twitter. I'm just trying to think of all the links. ForTheFansShow.com. I think that's it, because that gives you all the details that you need for iTunes and YouTube and where all the other shows are. Leave us a review on iTunes as well, because that really helps us in the charts. And you heard from Classic Football Shirts midway through. You heard from Ben. Go and check them out too. And I think that's it. Thanks, boys.